Lauren's wine glass struck the granite hard enough to make the silverware jump. The kitchen still smelled of the rosemary chicken I had cooked, though the plates between us had gone cold. Under the pendant lights, Lauren dragged one manicured finger through a ring of condensation and stared at me as if I were another appliance that had failed her. "You forgot the dry cleaning again," she said. "I picked it up during lunch, after I reminded you twice." The refrigerator hummed behind me. Somewhere inside the wall, the ice maker released a tray with a brittle crack. I folded my napkin and set it beside my plate. Months earlier, I would have explained the traffic, the meeting that ran late, the grocery stop she had added by text. I would have apologized until the room felt comfortable again. That night, I said nothing. Lauren leaned back, studying my silence. She had been doing that for months, testing how much contempt she could place between us before I bent under its weight. My shirts were too plain. My jokes embarrassed her. My job was respectable but unimpressive. Even the way I loaded the dishwasher had become evidence that she had settled. Each remark arrived with a smile, light enough to deny and sharp enough to leave a mark. "What?" she asked. "Nothing." "No, say it." Her bracelet clicked against the counter as she reached for her glass. "You've been walking around here with that wounded expression all week." "I'm sitting in my own kitchen, Lauren." "Our kitchen," she corrected. "And barely, considering who made this place look presentable." I looked around at the white cabinets she had selected, the imported tile she insisted we needed, and the brass fixtures I had installed after the contractor's estimate offended her. The room gleamed. Nothing in it felt warm. "Do you even hear yourself anymore?" I asked. Her lips parted, then curved into a small, almost amused smile. "There it is." Ethan finally found his backbone. The words landed quietly. No shouting. No slammed doors. Just the soft scrape of her chair against hardwood as she stood and carried her glass to the sink. "You know what your problem is?" she said, facing the dark window above it. "You think being dependable makes you special." I watched our reflections in the glass. She looked polished and certain. I looked tired enough to be mistaken for calm. "I never said I was special." "You don't have to. You act like I should be grateful because you cooked dinner and remember the mortgage." She turned, folding her arms. "But let's be honest. You're not going anywhere." The vent above the stove whispered warm air across my hands. I felt the edge of my wedding band press against my finger as I curled it against the countertop. Lauren saw the movement and smiled wider. "That's what this mood is about, isn't it? You want me to believe you might leave." She gave a short laugh. "You'd never leave me, Ethan, because you'd never find anyone better." The sentence did not break the room. It clarified it. Every apology I had offered, every insult I had swallowed, every evening spent restoring peace she had disturbed suddenly appeared for what it was, permission. I met her eyes. My pulse beat once against my throat, heavy and clean. "We'll see." Lauren blinked. For a second, the confidence slipped. Then she laughed again, picked up her phone, and walked past me, trailing expensive perfume through the doorway. "That's what I thought," she said. Her footsteps faded upstairs. She believed my quiet answer meant surrender. Standing beneath the hard white lights, I let her believe it, and looked at the life around me as if, for the first time, none of it belonged to me. The question was no longer whether I could survive without Lauren. It was what I would stop doing for her first. Morning light crawled across the kitchen tile, pale and cold, while the coffee maker clicked through its final drops. By 7:30, I had opened a new checking account, redirected my paycheck, and removed my name from the automatic payments on Lauren's personal cards. The keyboard felt cool beneath my fingertips. Each confirmation appeared without ceremony. No thunder, no shattered glass, just 3 quiet emails and the soft hum of the refrigerator. My hand stayed steady. For 6 years, my salary had landed in our joint account every other Friday. The mortgage came out first, then utilities, groceries, insurance, and whatever Lauren had decided she deserved that month. Designer shoes, spa weekends, dinners she called networking. Whenever the numbers ran short, I moved money from savings and told myself marriage meant covering the gap. That morning, I left enough in the joint account for my half of the household bills. Nothing more. Lauren discovered the change 2 days later. The scent of her perfume reached the living room before the sharp rhythm of her heels did. She stood beneath the warm brass lamp, holding her phone like evidence. My card was declined. I closed my laptop. "Then you'll need to pay the balance." Her expression remained polished, but one finger kept striking the black edge of the screen. It's our card. It's in your name. You always pay it. Not anymore. The air conditioner breathed through the vent, raising goose flesh along my forearms. Lauren stared at me as if I had spoken in a language she understood but had never expected me to use. Where did your paycheck go? My account. You opened a separate account without asking me. My income will cover my share of the house. Your income will cover yours. A small muscle tightened near her jaw. This is childish. No. It's clear. The next test came Monday. Lauren had missed a client deadline after spending the weekend away, and her supervisor called the house while she was in the shower. In the past, I would have supplied the excuse she had prepared: migraine, family emergency, internet outage. Steam drifted into the hallway as the shower pipes knocked behind the wall. Was Lauren sick Saturday? The woman asked. I looked at the closed bathroom door. You'll have to ask Lauren where she was. Silence held for half a second. Understood. When Lauren came downstairs with damp hair and found out, she stopped midway across the hardwood. You made me look irresponsible. I stopped making you look responsible. Her phone lowered slowly. You're really doing this over one argument? I could hear the clock ticking above the fireplace, each second clean and separate. I'm not lying for you anymore. I'm not paying your personal debt. And my paycheck is no longer yours to manage. Lauren crossed the room and reached for my laptop, but I closed it before her fingers touched the lid. That was when her composure finally cracked, not into grief, but disbelief. Until then, she had treated my patience like a permanent utility, something built into the walls and paid for automatically. Now the current was off. Put everything back, she said. By Friday. I stood, leaving the closed laptop between us. No, the word landed softly. Her ultimatum remained in the room, but for the first time, it had no authority behind it. Lauren looked at me for several long seconds, then lifted her phone and began typing with both thumbs. Whoever she was contacting, she wanted an audience for what came next. Ice clinked against crystal beneath the low hum of jazz, and warm pendant lights turned the restaurant's walnut table the color of polished amber. By the time I arrived, Lauren had already arranged everyone exactly where she wanted them. 3 couples from our social circle filled the booth, their coats folded beside them, wine breathing in open bottles. The empty chair beside Lauren faced the entire table. She kissed my cheek without touching me anywhere else. There he is, she said, the newly independent man. A few smiles appeared, uncertain and automatic. I sat down. The leather was cool through my shirt, and the air smelled of grilled steak, rosemary, and the sharp citrus peel twisted over Lauren's drink. She waited until the server had poured my water before beginning. Ethan has decided marriage is a financial competition now. Lauren lifted her glass. Separate accounts. Spending rules. Very dramatic. One friend studied his menu. Another gave a thin laugh. Lauren leaned closer to the candlelight, her face smooth and composed. Apparently moving his paycheck makes him feel powerful. That isn't what happened, I said. Oh, let him have this, she told the table. He spent years being an ordinary husband with an ordinary job. Now he's performing independence. The word performing drew the laugh she had been waiting for. Not from everyone. Enough. Silverware touched porcelain around us. Behind the bar, a bottle dropped into a recycling bin with a hard green crack. Lauren kept going, polishing each sentence before placing it in front of our friends. I was petty, insecure, ungrateful for the life she had given me. The decline card became my public tantrum. Her missed deadline became an innocent mistake I had weaponized. She turned every boundary into evidence of my inadequacy, then rested her fingertips on my wrist as though affection could erase the blade. He'll get tired of this little rebellion, she said. Ethan always comes back to his senses. The table fell quiet. I looked at her hand, then at the faces surrounding us. For years, I had protected the polished version of our marriage. I had laughed at comments that cut. I had supplied excuses before anyone could ask questions. Tonight, Lauren had invited witnesses because she believed shame would drive me back into position. Instead, she had given my decision a room, a date, and 6 people who could remember it. I slipped my wedding ring free. The band resisted at the knuckle before sliding into my palm, warm from my skin. Lauren's smile held until I placed it beside her wine glass. Metal struck wood with one clean click. What are you doing? She asked. Her fingers left my wrist. Ending the performance. No speech followed. No list of grievances. I stood, took my coat from the chair, and laid enough cash beside my untouched water to cover my place. Lauren glanced around the table, waiting for someone to restore the balance she had built. Nobody moved. "Sit down, Ethan." Her voice had lost its polished edge. I buttoned my coat. "You wanted them to see who I am." Cold night air met me at the restaurant door, carrying the smell of rain and wet pavement. Behind the glass, Lauren remained motionless beneath the amber lights, my ring beside her hand, and every witness looking at her instead of me. I walked toward the parking lot with my bare finger curled around my keys. Leaving the table had been simple. By morning, I would have to decide where I was going to live. Rain tapped the motel window until dawn, thin and relentless, while the heater coughed out air that smelled of dust and scorched metal. I lay on top of the blanket in yesterday's clothes, watching headlights slide across the ceiling. At 7:12, I stopped pretending the room was temporary. I opened my laptop and searched for apartments. By noon, I stood inside a third-floor unit above a laundromat, listening to dryers rumble through the floorboards. The place was 600 square feet. Beige carpet, narrow windows, a refrigerator that clicked every few minutes like an impatient clock. The leasing agent pulled the blinds open, letting gray light spill across an empty living room. "It's available today," she said. Through the glass, I could see a parking lot striped with rain and the red glow of a 24-hour pharmacy sign. Nothing about it looked like the life Lauren and I had displayed in holiday photographs. That was the point. I signed the lease. The pen dragged against cheap paper, and with each initial, another familiar thing slipped out of reach. The kitchen I had remodeled, the oak dining table, the mattress shaped by years of sleep, the address people associated with our polished marriage. That evening, I returned to the house while Lauren was gone. The room smelled of citrus cleaner and the expensive candle she kept burning near the stairs. I packed 2 suitcases, my work clothes, a coffee maker, and the framed photograph of my sister and me at Lake Michigan. I left the wedding pictures where they stood. Taking them would have implied they still belonged somewhere. At the apartment, my footsteps echoed against bare walls. Dinner came from a cardboard container eaten with a plastic fork on the floor. Pipes knocked behind the bathroom wall. Somewhere below, a dryer buzzer sounded 3 times, followed by the sweet chemical smell of fabric softener rising through the vents. I reached for my phone whenever the silence pressed too close, and set it face down before opening Lauren's messages. The habit was harder to abandon than the house. For years, I had called my staying loyalty. I had treated endurance like proof of character, as if absorbing contempt made me dependable. But sitting beneath the cold white kitchen light, with no one there to impress and no argument left to prevent, the simpler truth took shape. I had not remained because our marriage was still loving. I had remained because I knew how to survive that life. Every insult came with familiar furniture, familiar bills, familiar mornings. Leaving offered none of that. It offered blank walls and the possibility that I might fail without anyone to blame. The admission landed quietly. No shattered glass. No dramatic collapse. Just my plastic fork bending between my fingers. I had feared beginning again more than I feared disappearing inside the marriage. Near midnight, I unpacked the coffee maker and placed it on the counter. Then I hung my coat in the closet instead of leaving it inside the suitcase. 2 small acts, but they changed the room. This was not somewhere I was hiding until Lauren calmed down. It was where I lived now. My phone lit the dark countertop. Lauren's name appeared above a message stripped of accusation. "Can we talk tomorrow?" I read it once, surrounded by the hum of an unfamiliar refrigerator and the life I had finally chosen to enter. Then another message arrived. "Please, Ethan. I know how to fix this." The coffee maker clicked at 6:17 the next morning, releasing a bitter smell into the cold apartment. My phone vibrated across the bare counter, its screen flashing with another message from Lauren. She asked me to meet her at the park where we had taken our engagement photographs. By noon, winter sunlight lay pale across the empty fountain, and Lauren was waiting on the same stone bench where she had once said yes. No sharp perfume, no tailored coat. She wore the gray sweater I had bought her during our first Christmas together, and she held 2 paper cups from the coffee shop we used to visit on Sunday mornings. "Hazelnut," she said, offering me one. "One sugar." I remembered. The cup warmed my fingers. For a moment, the years folded in on themselves. Grocery lists on the refrigerator, her feet beneath my leg on the couch, laughter drifting through our house before every conversation became a test I could fail. Lauren kept her voice low. She said we had become careless with each other. She said she could change. Counseling, shared accounts with limits, fewer nights out, no more humiliating jokes. Each promise sounded measured and reasonable. Then she reached across the bench and rested her hand over mine. Come home, Ethan. We can put this behind us. My thumb moved against the rough seam of the cup. I pictured my coat hanging in that narrow apartment closet. I pictured carrying it back out. The temptation was not dramatic. It felt warm, familiar, easy. What happens if I don't? I asked. Her fingers tightened. I can't handle the mortgage alone. Everyone is asking questions. Our friends think I drove you away. My parents already know you left. And if this becomes public, it could affect how people see me at work. The fountain remained dry between us. Somewhere behind the trees, a truck reversed with 3 dull beeps. I waited for her to say she missed the way I laughed, or that she had finally understood what her contempt had done. Instead, she listed the house, the bills, our friends, her parents, her reputation. Every promise pointed back to the life my absence had disrupted. You don't want me back? I said. You want everything I carried. Lauren pulled her hand away. The softness left her mouth first. That isn't fair. No, I said, setting the untouched coffee beside her. It's finally clear. That afternoon, I sat in a law office smelling of paper, old carpet, and burnt coffee. A yellow lamp cast a hard circle over the retainer agreement. The attorney explained filing dates, temporary arrangements, disclosure forms, and the possibility that Lauren would contest every line. My pen hovered once. Just once. Then I signed. The scratch of ink was quieter than the restaurant, quieter than our kitchen, quieter than the apartment at midnight. It carried more weight than all of them. Before sunset, the divorce petition had been filed with the county clerk. Lauren called 7 times after receiving notice. I let each call end on its own, but her final voicemail remained on the screen, 38 seconds long. I did not play it. The papers were no longer a threat, and my departure was no longer something she could wait out. By morning, Lauren would have to decide whether she intended to release me or make me pay for becoming unreachable. Rain needled the office windows while fluorescent light flattened every color in the conference room. Across the polished table, my manager pushed a leather folder toward me, its brass corners scraping softly against the wood. The promotion came with a larger team, a glass office, and enough money to make the apartment above the laundromat feel temporary. I read the final paragraph twice. 70-hour weeks. Constant travel. Client dinners that stretched past midnight. The same kind of life that had taught me to measure my worth by how much inconvenience I could absorb without complaining. You've earned this, Ethan, my manager said. But I need an answer today. My thumb rested against the thick paper. 6 months earlier, I would have signed before he finished speaking. Lauren would have liked the title, the salary, the photographs from corporate events. She would have called it proof that we were doing well. I closed the folder. I can't take it. The air vent hummed overhead. My manager leaned back, studying me as if I had answered in another language. I accepted a transfer instead. Less status, less money, no executive track, but predictable hours and control over my calendar. By noon, my old office had already been promised to someone else. The loss was immediate and clean. No house disappeared this time. No ring touched a table. A future I had spent years building simply closed behind me. At 5:30, while pale sunlight reflected off wet pavement, I entered a therapist's office that smelled of cedar and peppermint tea. The chair fabric scratched against my palms. When she asked why I had stayed so long, I started with loyalty, then history, then responsibility. Each answer sounded rehearsed once it entered the room. Finally, I looked at the rainwater trembling along the window. I thought being needed was the same as being loved. She did not rescue me from the silence. That was the point. The next evening, I called my younger sister for the first time in nearly a year. A skillet hissed in her kitchen while children argued somewhere behind her. I stopped inviting you, she said, because Lauren always found a reason you couldn't come. My hand tightened around the phone. I let that happen. No excuse followed. My sister breathed out slowly, then told me Sunday dinner was at 6. Come alone, she said. But come. On Sunday, I arrived carrying a grocery store pie with the crust cracked down the middle. Warm air rolled from the doorway, carrying roasted chicken, cinnamon, and laundry detergent. My niece pulled me toward a card game before I could remove my coat. Nobody asked what Lauren would think. Nobody needed me to explain my value before handing me a seat. Weeks passed. Therapy on Tuesdays. Dinner with my sister on Sundays. Work ended while daylight still touched the buildings. I learned to cook 3 decent meals, ruined 2 shirts in the laundromat downstairs, and stopped checking whether Lauren had seen my messages because I no longer sent any. Her approval had once been the weather inside every room. Now it was only a sound outside the walls. Then, on a cold Thursday afternoon, my attorney called. The financial disclosures had arrived. His voice was measured, but paper shifted rapidly on his end of the line. "Ethan, there are accounts here you need to see." I stood beside my apartment window as the laundromat dryers thudded beneath the floorboards. For the first time since filing, Lauren had been forced to show what our life had actually cost, and who had been carrying it. The conference room smelled of burnt coffee and warm printer toner, while sleet tapped against the dark glass in dry, impatient bursts. My attorney slid a binder across the walnut table. Colored tabs crowded its edge. "These aren't hidden assets," he said. "They're hidden liabilities." I opened the cover. The first statement carried Lauren's name and a balance of $38,420 on a private line of credit. The next showed 2 maxed-out cards mailed to her office. Then came a personal loan, refinanced twice, followed by months of cash advances taken days before mortgage payments cleared. I turned each page slowly. Paper rasped beneath my fingertips. Numbers I had once treated as routine now formed a structure I had never been allowed to see. Designer purchases appeared beside transfers from our joint account. Expensive client dinners were followed by penalty fees. The vacations Lauren had presented as proof that we were thriving had been partly funded by borrowed money. Even the kitchen renovation she had told our friends was her reward for professional success had begun with a loan I never signed. "How did this stay afloat?" I asked. My attorney rotated a spreadsheet toward me. Blue columns tracked my salary deposits, bonuses, automatic mortgage payments, insurance premiums, tax bills, and emergency transfers. Red columns tracked Lauren's spending and debt. Every time her private balances approached collapse, money I had placed into our household account absorbed the impact before I could see it. I had not merely paid more than my share. I had been the brace behind a wall painted to look solid. "Your income kept the joint obligations current," he said. "Without it, several of these accounts would likely have defaulted years ago." The heating vent clicked overhead. Cold air pressed through the window frame as I studied a recurring payment to a luxury car lease Lauren had insisted her employer subsidized. It did not. Neither did the club membership, the wardrobe allowance, or the professional travel she had blamed for missing our anniversary dinner. Lauren had built authority out of appearances, then used my labor to finance the stage beneath her. My attorney asked whether I wanted forensic accounting expanded into a claim for dissipation of marital assets. That option sat between us like a sharpened tool. I could expose every purchase, challenge every transfer, and force the private wreckage into a public record. Instead, I took out my phone and opened the budgeting archive Lauren had once mocked me for keeping. Bank confirmations, mortgage schedules, canceled checks, tax receipts. I forwarded the complete folder to my attorney. "Document everything," I said. "No assumptions. No revenge. Just make sure I don't inherit debt she concealed." Before we left, he emailed Lauren's counsel a formal demand for full statements and sworn explanations of every undisclosed account. A response arrived before I reached the elevator. Lauren wanted an emergency meeting. Down in the lobby, wet shoes squeaked across marble, and winter air rushed through the revolving doors. My phone lit again. This time, the message came from Lauren herself. I expected blame. Instead, 5 words glowed against the screen. "Please don't let them ruin me." For years, she had spoken as if I were the burden she tolerated. Now the paperwork had stripped away the performance, and the person who believed she held all the power was asking me to protect what remained. The elevator doors opened behind me with a soft metallic chime. I did not answer. Her emergency meeting was scheduled for Monday at 9. Rain tapped against the 9th floor windows Monday morning, and the heating vent breathed dry air across the polished table. Lauren sat beneath a strip of white fluorescent light, both hands wrapped around a paper cup she never lifted. Her attorney had arranged neat stacks of statements between us, but Lauren pushed them aside and looked directly at me. Call it off, Ethan. The words came out low, stripped of the confidence she once wore like perfume. We can go home. I'll close the cards. I'll sell whatever I have to sell. I studied the pale indentation on her finger where her wedding ring had been. Why? Her mouth opened, then closed. The wall clock clicked 3 times before she answered. Because I need you. Not love. Not regret. Need. At least this time, she told the truth. Lauren leaned forward, the paper cup crackling beneath her grip. You know what happens if they classify the spending as dissipation. I could lose my share of the house. My credit will be destroyed. My career, I'm not pursuing the claim. Silence dropped across the room. Even her attorney stopped turning pages. Lauren stared at me as if she had misheard. I slid my written instructions across the cool wood. A fair division of disclosed marital property, separate responsibility for debts incurred without my knowledge, no punitive demand against her equity, no attempt to embarrass her publicly. You won't use the statements? She asked. Only to keep your hidden liabilities from becoming mine. Her shoulders lowered, but relief lasted less than a second. I opened the blue folder beside my elbow and removed the settlement agreement. I'm still signing. Lauren's chair scraped sharply against the floor. She stood, then caught herself against the table. You're throwing away the house. 12 years. Everything we built. I already gave up the house. My voice stayed level. Today I'm giving up the belief that your dependence makes me responsible for staying. She walked to the window, heels striking the carpet's plastic chair mat before falling silent on the darker weave. Below us, wet traffic crawled through the intersection, headlights smeared gold across the pavement. I said things, she whispered. I made you feel small because I knew how much I depended on you. If you believed you had nowhere better to go, you wouldn't look at what I was taking. The admission hung between us, plain and ugly. Lauren turned. Isn't hearing that enough? I picked up the black pen. Its metal barrel felt cold against my fingers. It's enough to understand. It isn't enough to return. I signed beneath the settlement terms, each stroke quiet against the paper. Lauren remained standing while her attorney guided her back to the chair and indicated the marked lines. She read them slowly. Then she signed. No shouting. No courtroom spectacle. Just ink drying beneath fluorescent light while the life she had treated as permanent became legally finite. Outside the building, the rain had thinned to mist. Lauren followed me beneath the concrete awning, holding her coat closed at the throat. What happens to me now? She asked. A bus hissed at the curb, spraying water along the gutter. I looked at her without reaching for the answer she wanted me to provide. Now you find out who you are when no one else is carrying you. The doors folded open. I stepped aboard, paid my fare, and took a seat beside the fogged window. Lauren stayed under the awning as the bus pulled away. The marriage was over. What remained was the harder question, whether I could build a life chosen for its freedom, instead of another life organized around being indispensable. Morning lights spread across the apartment floor in pale rectangles, warming the scarred wood while the radiator clicked behind the couch. 3 weeks after the bus pulled away, the final decree arrived in a stiff, white envelope. I set it beside my coffee, opened the blinds, and watched people cross the street below with collars raised against the March wind. Nothing outside looked different. That was the strange part. For years, I had imagined leaving as an explosion. Instead, freedom sounded like pipes knocking in the wall and smelled like toast I had burned because no one was demanding that I fix something. My phone lit up with Lauren's name. I let it ring once, then answered. The decree came, she said. Paper shifted near the receiver. Her voice had lost the polished edge she used whenever certainty mattered more than truth. Mine too. A pause settled between us, clean and final. Are you seeing someone? She asked. No. Her breath loosened, almost a laugh. Then what was all this for? I looked around the apartment. The second-hand table, the blue mug my sister had left after Sunday dinner, the therapy appointment written on the calendar, and my new work schedule ending at 5. None of it would have impressed the man I used to be. Every inch of it belonged to me. You thought leaving only counted if I replaced you, I said. It didn't. The line went quiet except for the faint hum of traffic behind her. So you didn't find better. I found out better wasn't another woman. Lauren inhaled sharply. I could picture her standing in that immaculate kitchen, surrounded by stone counters and stainless steel I had paid to maintain, waiting for me to soften the meaning. I did not. Better is not being mocked in my own home. Better is sleeping without wondering what failure I'll be blamed for tomorrow. Better is having people in my life who don't need me diminished so they can feel tall. Ethan, I hope you rebuild, I said. But I won't do it for you. After we hung up, I carried the decree to the small desk by the window. The paper felt rough beneath my thumb. I filed it with the lease, my therapy receipts, and the offer letter for the job I had chosen instead of the title I once chased. Then I removed the last unopened moving box from the closet. Inside lay framed photographs, holiday cards, and the wedding portrait Lauren had once displayed above the fireplace. Sunlight flashed across the glass. I took out the photograph, removed it from the frame, and placed it in the folder with the decree, not destroyed, not worshipped, simply finished. The empty frame went on the shelf. That evening, my sister came over carrying takeout, and we ate by the open window while cool air moved through the room. No performance, no rescue, no one keeping score. Months later, Lauren sent one final message. I understand now. I read it, wished her well without typing the words, and deleted the thread. She had believed my future depended on finding someone better than her. The truth was simpler, and it had cost me everything familiar to learn it. I had finally become someone I would no longer abandon.